Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Maine Take. My name is Dana Connors. I am pleased to be your host for this program brought to you by the Maine State Chamber of Commerce twice a month. Each month, we take a look, or each program, I should say, we take a look at the issues, the initiatives, and the ideas that play in our state and the people behind those issues, initiatives, and ideas. Today's show focuses on that term, that person, the entrepreneur, and entrepreneurship. It's a term that's often used in discussing the economy. In fact, it's very key to an evolving, a growing economy. And the question is for us today, what is Maine doing about it? Is it alive and well in Maine? Are we recognizing its value, its place in our economy? Well, we have two very special guests who can answer those questions and more when it comes to entrepreneurship. The first guest that you're going to see in just a moment, we recorded just a couple hours ago, who couldn't be with us at this time. That person is Julene Gervais. She is the host as well as the producer of the show called Greenlight, Maine. We also have Mike Duguay, who is the executive director of the Harold Alfond Institute for Business Innovation. They are with us today, and we begin with Julene. It's my pleasure to welcome to our show today one of our two guests, and who better to answer the question of, is entrepreneurship alive and well in Maine? And what are we doing to recognize its value and to its place in our economy? That person is Julene Gervais. And Julene, it's wonderful to have you with us. She is, for those who don't know, and I can't imagine there are many who don't know, she is the host and producer of Greenlight, Maine, a show that has, over the course of 6 years, beginning at 7th soon. The program has interviewed over 150 entrepreneurs and has been Emmy nominated. So very impressive. So Julene, once again, thank you for being on the show to take this time to be with us. So let me ask you, is entrepreneurship alive and well in Maine?
Yes, absolutely, Dana. And thank you so much for having me. It's so good to be here and good to see you. But yes, absolutely. It's alive and well. It's growing every year. People are moving to this state. Maine has such a buzz going on right now that things couldn't be better.
Well said. Greenlight, Maine. Kind of an interesting term that caught on at the very beginning. It was almost an intuitive thing. Who would have recognized that we faced the pandemic that we've just had for the past 2 years experienced? And as you said, how it has brought recognition to Maine in ways that we perhaps didn't choose to market it this way, but the benefit of seeing Maine as a safe place, as a place to come where they can reside without having to worry has been a real attraction for us. So Greenlight, Maine, you're starting the 7th season. Tell me what you can for people that may be watching this and are not familiar with the program. How does it work? What is it? How do you set it up? How do you make it magic out of this concept called Greenlight, Maine?
Yeah, so Greenlight, Maine is a pitch competition where two companies pitch against each other each week in front of a panel of judges, and then one moves on to the next round. And then we have a group of semifinalists, and then out of the semifinalists, 3 of them go to the finals. And then we've changed it a bit. Now, each one of the finalists receive a cash prize. It used to be just the top finalist won $100,000. Now we divide it up against the top 3. And we put out a call, to anybody who is a startup or maybe they have an established business. It's varying degrees of where their business is at, but we don't exclude anybody. I mean, you could be a mom and pop coffee shop, you could be a tech company, anything. And yeah, it's small business is the backbone of Maine's economy. And the show proves that one thing about Mainers, I mean, they have a ton of grit and they work well together, because what people don't see is the behind the scenes, and everybody helps each other. And if somebody needs to be connected to somebody, we have all of that going on behind the scenes between the judges and the companies that come on the show.
Talk a bit about the panel itself. Do they question the individual making the pitch, or is it more giving them advice? What is their role?
Well, there is time, during the show that they do get to do some questions. Obviously, not that many, because we only have so much time in 30 minutes, but there's a lot that goes on. They do get time off camera. So they do they actually exchange information, they keep in touch, and they become mentors. And we try really hard to pair judges up with knowledge of the companies that are pitching. Like, let's say if somebody is in the aquaculture business, we would try to pair up an appropriate judge. So there is a lot invested on the judge's part of the program.
Yeah, I remember it well, because it's transitioned into what it is today. But sitting on that panel and making a judgment on one of the two, and they both were incredibly smart about what they had produced and how they were selling it. It's a tough decision to make, and I really commend you for recognizing in the final analysis, who they've gone through that process, that they share in the results. I think that's a very positive, to reward them for both their product, but also their time. So
yes, you've been on the show several times, I know.
Yeah, it's I'm not sure I was a worthy judge, but I was on the show, and it was a wonderful experience.
Yes, yeah. Of course you are.
Yeah. So tell me, since Greenlight came into being and it's been such a success, you have found the time as producer and host to create two additional, very complementary initiatives, if you will, that deal with the same concept of entrepreneurship. Can you talk about what each of them, what their focus is, and how each of those work as well?
Sure. Yes. The first one is the Greenlight Maine College Edition, which we're about to do season 4 this year. And that we started because we really want college students to stay here. So if somebody comes to a Maine college or university and they're from Connecticut or Texas or California, and they're thinking about starting a business, we would really like them to start it here and to stay here. So our motto is start here, stay here, scale here.
Ooh,
and that's worked out extremely well. And we are having our biggest season yet. We have 25 college students from all over Maine competing this season. And that is our biggest pool so far. Yeah, and then our other show is Elevating Voices, which we started last year. And that is not a competition. It is a feature magazine show that is celebrating diversity in Maine businesses. And whether you were born here or you're moved here from somewhere else and you are of a diverse background, or you are doing something to promote diversity in Maine, we are featuring you, and Bangor Savings Bank is giving each of those companies a $5,000 grant to invest in their business. And that is something that we were working on for a long time, actually. And we were able to get it off the ground last season because we want people to move here. We want to show that Maine is welcoming all kinds of different cultures, because that is so important to an economy, is having culture.
It sure is. So you mentioned those 3 programs. I think you mentioned that you're beginning in, I think, all 3, the initial stages for this year. This is the 7th year in Greenlight. You said the 4th in in College Connect, and the 2nd one in Elevating Voices. I know it's on. Are all 3 on public television?
Yes, they are. We're on Thursday nights at 8:00 on Maine Public, so you can see it statewide.
Oh, that's great. So when would you see them? You mentioned Thursday night, but do you have different evenings for each of the initiatives?
No, it's so we'll
Okay.
we'll kick off with our head-to-head series, which is our original Greenlight Maine.
Yeah.
And then I think we're going to do the Elevating Voices, then the college series, and then we run the 2 finales. And then you can also see it on our website or on YouTube. We always rebroadcast them. Plus, I mean, we'll promote when it starts running. And then Maine Public has been so kind, and we appreciate the coverage that they do rebroadcast us. Last season they rebroadcast on Fridays and Sundays as well. I'm not sure if they're going to do that again this year, but we'll see.
Oh, that's great. So people can go back if they wanted to do a little research to find out more about the program. They could access that and be able to see it in their own time and convenience. Oh, that's
yes,
good.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So if somebody, you referenced this at the beginning, but I want to explore it a little bit more. If somebody has a product, a service, and they want to get involved, you said you welcome everyone. How would they go about to do just that?
You can send us a message on our social media. You can send us a message on our website. You can go to my social media, Julian Gervais, and do it. So there's multiple locations that you can reach us.
Yeah. I'm going to ask you a very unfair question.
Okay. I love a challenge.
Yeah. You've been witness to an awful lot of wonderful ideas, special projects and products. Have any of them stood out to you as that wow factor of just saying, you know, this is so great? Or here's one that, boy, I hope the whole state and the world sees this. Are there any special ones that sticks in your mind?
You know, Dana, there are so many of them. I couldn't possibly name just one. I would be here like all day long talking about them. But I will say that, you know, we struggle. Greenlight Maine is a startup too, and we struggle every year, and especially during COVID, because everybody was reorganizing how they're going to spend their marketing dollars and everything. So we have partnerships with a lot of companies. And when I pitch to people, I always use Good to Go. I don't know if you're familiar with Good to Go, but they were on early. I think it was season 1 or 2. And it was actually before my time, before I was involved with Greenlight Maine. But we always use them as an example because it's a husband and wife team, and they sell, she's a gourmet chef, and they sell this packaged gourmet food for hiking and camping and everything. And they were very new on the scene, and they came on Greenlight Maine. They did not win, but the exposure that they got like a $700,000 investment just from being on the show. And when we went back and did a 100th anniversary episode, they said to me that day, they said, we would never have made it if it wasn't for Greenlight Maine, because we didn't know anything about the economic ecosystem of Maine. We didn't know who MTI was. We didn't know what DECD was. We didn't know anybody. And that show, Greenlight Maine, just opened our world, and they have thrived. I think they're in their like 2nd or 3rd location. They have dozens of employees. They ship all over the world now, and they're a huge success story. Good to go. Check them out.
I will. Well, Julene, you answered a very unfair question very well. And,
that's just one example, Dana. Like I can write a book on this.
Like I said, I mean, that's a question that I would never want to be asked because of the very reason you mentioned. There are too many wonderful examples, but you managed it extremely well. But you also brought forward something that I want to emphasize, because yes, at the end of the season, there are winners, and those winners share in the victory. But you just mentioned something that's worth a lot as well, is the exposure that every single business that comes before you on that show gets publicity, gets marketing. There's awareness that you can't buy. And you just, by that example, proved the point, because here's a company that was new, and now they have an incredibly successful company, and the future looks so bright. So,
yeah,
great.
prize money aside, like even if you don't win, you should come on the show, because the promotion and the exposure you get, like you never know who's watching or who's watching that's going to mention it to somebody else. And we know to date, more than $25 million has been invested in the companies that have been on our show. Maybe it wasn't because of they were on the show, but since they've been on the show. So we are part of this whole network in Maine that is so important to get the word out there. And people always say to me, why do you do this? You're volunteering your time. Well, because this only matters. Like, this is great. We're doing this. We're preaching to the choir. Everybody in Maine is seeing this, and it's great, and it's awesome for the culture. But this only matters to me when we go outside of Maine. And my goal is Greenlight, New England, because when we expose this to all of New England and we get all of the companies to come here in a Maine-produced show, and they're competing against companies in Maine, that's when people are going to start to look at Greenlight Maine. And that's what we're talking about doing now. That is the end goal.
Yeah, and the economy depends on that type of effort too, believe me. I have to say this, I say it because I want to say it, not because I have to say it, is that you are definitely typecast for this type of program. Your sincerity, your interest, your enthusiasm is really incredibly positive, and there couldn't be a better host. So,
oh, you're so sweet. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah. Well, thank you for what you're doing. Thank you for making the public aware that the entrepreneurship in Maine is alive. It's well. We're doing something about it. We're promoting. It's mentoring. It's all those things, and it's so fundamental to our economy that no one should doubt that. So, thanks for bringing that message to us loud and clear. You take care.
Thank you, Dana. And thank you all that the State Chamber does for Maine. You do an outstanding job, you and your team.
Thank you. Much appreciated. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
I want to welcome our next guest, a very special guest, one that I've known for a number of years. And I can say this about Mike Duguay, who happens to be that person. He's always made economic development a part of his professional life, whether it was a private sector or public sector. He currently, as I mentioned at the beginning of the show, is the executive director of the Harold Alfond Institute for Business Innovation. And Mike, when you think of the entrepreneur, it's hard not to connect that to innovation, because they would not be an innovator, they would not be an entrepreneur without focusing on that word, the value that goes with innovation. So Mike, let me ask you this, as I did Julene, is the entrepreneurship alive and well in Maine as you see it?
Yeah, Dana, after doing it for as many years, obviously with yourself and your staff, I think we're actually at the peak of ever time that we've been doing this in Maine. And as Julene had suggested, all the pieces really are there for the first time that I've seen. And not only is it alive, but I think it's actually thriving. We're bringing people into Maine. Those that are already here as our own residents are starting to find out really the magic of innovation and entrepreneurship. So I look at this as that I think this is our time.
Yeah. Let me pursue this coming weekend. I believe I'm correct when I say that it will be the 5th year for Create and Converge weekend. Tell me about that term, Create and Converge, the basis for it. It's fascinating.
It's interesting, right? Because we look at this as a weekend and effectively a couple of days to bring people from around the state to really offer what we believe is really a safe environment to share and exchange ideas. And it's interesting because I think in Maine, when we were starting to build the ecosystem for entrepreneurship, we asked really other states that were doing this well, and we asked, what's the main ingredient? And their point was, you have to offer just a safe environment where ideas can be shared and supported, and not necessarily in the open where they're criticized. And so if you can bring people around who find that all ideas have value, you've really created a safe haven. And I would really say, Dana, to anyone, I think Maine as a whole regardless if you're in the Waterville area where I am, Portland, Bangor, Lewiston, Auburn, and such around the state. All of my colleagues have created that safe and nurturing environment. And it's really for the first time that I've seen that we now have this larger ecosystem, and not just in the urban areas. So what we do, our part, is to do Converge and Create. We offer it on a Friday afternoon. It used to be in person, but obviously we're all suffering from the lingering effects. So it's online, it's free, it's open to the public. And it really gives the public some insight of what Maine people are doing, not only at the entrepreneurship level, but also at the assistance level. Who's out there assisting these people? And it's been something that's just been a real interesting operation and event, because every time we do it, I learn something new, and I've been doing this for a long time.
So you cover topics, I'm assuming, from where you get the money, how you get the money, to what you have to do to actually build, scale up, as we say, your business. So it's a range of topics, all applicable to the individual that wants to start a business.
You're spot on. It's also for small businesses too that are there looking to how to figure out, where that next step is. And it's funny you say that, because it really is a progression. We literally start off our first panel with college students who have successfully started and launched businesses. These are post-revenue businesses, and they're basically all still in college. They start off the panel talking about, how do you know if you have an idea that's worthy? How do you actually validate that out in the marketplace? How do you monetize it? It then goes from there all the way the progression scale to venture capital, to discussion about what state resources and federal resources might be available. We then talk about with partners like Maine Technology Institute, Maine Venture Fund, how do you take it then to the next step? And actually all the way to the ending session, which is a concluding session, where Rue Institute, one of our partners this year, will be talking about, how do you start a startup, or how do you find one? How do you jump over into that employment? What's it about? What do you need to look for as far as the right team and the right idea? A very intriguing afternoon, really, in this.
I'll bet. Sounds exciting. Julene, as you heard her say, under the umbrella of Greenlight Maine, has the college edition. And as I understand it, you've got an incredible level of interest this year. And those pitches are for the individual. I think it's 25, maybe. I think that's what she said.
Correct.
Those pitches will be made on the second day on Saturday. Is that correct?
Exactly right. And right now we're finalizing the agenda and sort of the time slots, Dana, but it looks like it's going to run from roughly 8:30 till about 5 o'clock. And what we're going to do is we're going to post that on our website, which, if I can make a plug real quick, it's thomas.edu/create. And in that, you'll find not only the itinerary for Friday's session, but also the entire itinerary for the Saturday session, which is the college Pitchouts. And it will show the individual entrepreneurs and the time slots that they have. And as Julian had mentioned, it's really we've had some incredible success. This year really has been the most successful in getting students to come forward. And it's difficult. It's one of those things where you're the most vulnerable sharing a dream and an idea to other people.
Well, and it's wonderful because we all know that our youth, our students, are the foundation for our future success. So instilling in them that it's okay to start a business. Here's how you do it. If you've got a dream one day at a time, is a very positive thing and rewarding when you think about it, both for the individual, but also for the economy. Will this take place right on the campus and is free to people that want to come watch it?
Actually, Dana, it had been up until the COVID times on campus.
Oh, that's right.
It will be completely online. And actually, if people just went to that thomas.edu/create website, they'll find a registration, which is entirely free. They follow that to an Eventbrite page, and it will give them a free registration and the Zoom link.
Yeah, I think I was living in the past there for a moment when we used to be able to get together. But that day will come again. We know it will. Starting to ease up a bit. So,
right.
So I want to spend a couple of minutes because, again, as we said at the outset, innovation and the entrepreneur kind of go like a hand and glove. Talk about some of the things that you are working on to help businesses when it comes to innovation at the Harold Alfond Institute.
Yeah, that's a great point, Dana. Thank you for that, because we obviously are on Thomas College campus. We work very closely with our student base, but we also deal with the public as well. And one of those things that we do with them is we work with their senior and management teams, looking at how do you become innovative. And that sounds so silly, but what tends to happen, as you pointed out, is that creativity is great. It only becomes innovation when you put it into action. And the truth is, what we're trying to do with companies is identify amongst their employees and their customers and their vendors, when there's a good idea that comes forward, how do you then take that to the next step? And interestingly enough, I am very much of the school that innovators and entrepreneurs are not born. You can teach them the process. There are templates. Success in entrepreneurship and innovation leaves fingerprints. They're very noticeable. And you follow, in effect, those templates and successful pathways. And what we're doing effectively, Dana, is putting that out to the business community. For the most part, it's pro bono. It's a free service provided by the Harold Alfond Foundation through the Institute to bring these businesses in and around central Maine to really a higher level of understanding how to connect better with customers, how to identify how to make better product and services. So there's a term called agile in innovation, and it's really meant to be, quick and nimble, and effectively flexible and malleable. Because I think what the pandemic has shown us in all businesses is we have to be much better at directly connecting with our customers and offering them the services where they want it and when they want it, right? And a big part of that is really trying to get management and companies to realize that they have to stay flexible. And in order to do that, we're helping them develop the process and the tools for innovation.
Well said. It's so fundamentally important to our economy today, as well as building it for the future. Mike, I've known you for a long time. Like I said at the outset, your heart's always been in economic development. Your ability is without question. Your enthusiasm is so infectious that I feel like I should go out and start something right now, even though I know I don't have either the DNA for it or probably too old to learn. But thanks so much for being on the show. The two of you have been marvelous in terms of bringing to our attention that not only is the entrepreneur concept alive and well in Maine, you're doing everything possible to make people aware and to develop it because of the importance to our economy. Thank you, my friend. It's a pleasure to see you and have you on the show.
As always, my pleasure, Dana. Thank you.
You take care. Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Well, as we close out the show for this week, I kind of hate to do it because there was so much valuable information and so much encouragement when you think of the entrepreneurial term. Yes, it's alive and well, and yes, a lot of things are being done to develop it. Mike says it's not in your DNA, and that's probably true. But what are the characteristics that we've learned from our guests today that embodies the individual? And how do you go about to develop that entrepreneurial, as he suggested, spirit that is so important to our economy? Well, I guess from everything I've heard today, it begins with an attitude and approach to thinking that they are people that seek out change. They don't wait for change to happen and then adapt to it. It's really a mindset that embraces the individual who are critical thinkers, ask questions, seek answers. They search for new ideas and new ways. They're not afraid to take risks. Just think about that. They're starting off with an idea. That is an incredible risk to take to bring it to fruition. But it happens in Maine in abundance. And they also value the need for what it is at the beginning will need continuous improvement. I think the entrepreneur has to have the passion and the power, like the two guests displayed today. The entrepreneurial spirit, to me, is very much alive and well in Maine. Think of this, that 80% of our businesses employ fewer than 20 people. That is small business. Think about that 80% of our businesses are family-owned businesses. That's entrepreneurial by any definition. To start, to build, and to have 80% either family-owned or small business employ fewer than 20 people. And on the national stage, it's impressive there as well when the prestigious Ewing Marion Kaufman Foundation said that Maine was in the top 10 states for attracting business, starting a new business, of early stage business. And that criteria that determined that was clearly based on the entrepreneurial success within those companies or within those people. So the question is, how do you develop that mindset, that attitude? Well, maybe it's not in the DNA. Clearly, it's not in my DNA. But today's program showed us the ways that it can be done. Greenlight Maine showcases in their 6 years over 150 entrepreneurs. And every time that is marketed, that's on display on public television, it not only shows that we are doing it, it encourages others to do it as well. How about the college edition? Isn't that a wonderful concept? And we start with our very young because we know that it's seated there, the foundation begins there, and we have 25. They may not all be from Maine, but as was said, they want them to start here, to develop their product here. I guess they call it scale up, but most of all, to stay here. And elevating Maine, it's really a showcase for those minority-owned business or the diversity that comes with people of color and the opportunity they bring to us because they have those experiences, those ideas, and create and converge the weekend that's before us. Not only that the information's available, but it gives that opportunity to showcase, once again, the college edition students. And when you look at all of those particular programs, they all embrace the model that says, we're growing Maine one dream at a time. The entrepreneurial spirit is such a key element in the formula for a state's economic success or economic growth. I can't thank our guests this week enough for bringing that to our attention and reassuring us how important the entrepreneurial spirit is and how much of that we have going for us. That is the takeaway for this week. I look forward to seeing you back here in just a couple of weeks for another program to share with you. In the meantime, in a world where you can be anything, be kind to yourself and be kind to one another. Until we meet again, have a wonderful couple of weeks, a happy Thanksgiving, and we'll see you on the other side. Take care.